Greetings to viewers and welcome back to the review program. This episode will be dedicated to President Shakat Mirziyoyev's visit to the United States and the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Before we dive into a more detailed discussion, let's watch a series of reports on events that took place in the United States. President Shakat Mirziyoyev met with the President of European Council, Charles Michel, at the residence reserved for him. The sides discussed further expansion of Uzbek-European multifaceted cooperation, primarily in political, trade, economic, investment, and humanitarian spheres.
The sides discussed the issues of early adoption of agreements on enhanced partnership and cooperation, formation of favorable conditions for increasing the volume of mutual trade and investments, as well as deepening cooperation in main sectors of economy, including bilateral documents on long-term basis. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev met with Caroline Lam, chairman of U.S.-Uzbekistan Chamber of Commerce, as a part of program of his visit to United States. The leader of Uzbekistan congratulated the participants of the meeting on 30th anniversary of establishment of U.S.-Uzbek Chamber of Commerce, emphasizing the key role of this structure in expanding bilateral trade, economic and investment cooperation. Specific plans for American business to expand activities in Uzbekistan were discussed during the meeting. As a result, agreements were reached and adoption roadmaps for the implementation of joint projects. The next point of business program of President Shavkat Mirziyoyev's visit to New York City was meeting with Seifi Gassami, Chairman of Board, President and CEO of Air Products. U.S. Undersecretary of State for Energy Jeffrey Pyatt also attended the meeting. Air Products is currently implementing projects in Uzbekistan on processing of industrial gases at the Uzbekistan GTL, the production of synthetic gas, oxygen and nitrogen, and production of liquefied carbon dioxide at Navai Azot. Over the last 2 years, the company attracted direct investments of over $1 billion in development these projects. At the end of the meeting, agreements were reached on implementing a new investment program of Air Products in Uzbekistan worth over $10 billion. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev personally presented Air Products chairman of the board, Seifi Gassami, with a high state award, Dostlik Order, for his contribution to the expansion of Uzbek-American multifaceted cooperation. The President of Uzbekistan has discussed new areas of interaction with the head of International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva. The side has a thorough exchange of views on development of the global economic situation. Issues of further expansion of mutually beneficial cooperation with IMF were considered. The side discussed issues of International Monetary Fund's participation in conducting a comprehensive analysis of the sustainability of national financial sector, providing advisory assistance in elaborating proposals to improve economic policy in Uzbekistan.
To discuss the agenda of the visit, we have invited a special guest, the political scientist, Mr. Farhod Talipov. Good evening, Mr. Farhod. It's a pleasure to have you in our studio today.
Me too.
Many observers see Shavkat Mirziyoyev's visit to USA as a significant event in Uzbekistan's international relations. As a political scientist, how would you contextualize this visit from the broader framework of Uzbekistan's foreign policy?
Well, first of all, I should say that from the very beginning of independence, from first years of independence, after entering the United Nations system, Uzbekistan has always, I would say, sticked itself with UN resolutions, UN principles as a member of the United Nations. And the representatives of Uzbekistan, first President Islam Karimov and the current incumbent Shavkat Mirziyoyev, used this opportunity, or the tribune of the United Nations, to express, first of all, commitment of this country to UN resolutions, UN norms and principles on one hand, and advance our own initiatives, Uzbekistan's initiatives, international initiatives on the other. Well, since then, Uzbekistan proposed numerous ideas and initiatives, mostly related to Central Asian reality. And well, that's why from the broader perspective, for Uzbekistan, UN was and is the platform for attracting international attention to the region, to the country. Even if some conflicts or problems arise inside the region or around the region, Uzbekistan immediately appealed to the United Nations, sending such a message that whatever happens negative, conflicts, tensions, different other things, the only way to resolve different conflicts, problem situation is to base ourselves on the United Nations rules, United Nations resolutions, and so on. Because we are UN members. That's why for us this is the highest authority, and the United Nations should be the highest instance to which we should appeal regarding Central Asia. In foreign policy of Uzbekistan, United Nations remains as the highest authority to whose resolutions we stick, and also we respect, as a member of the United Nations, we respect this authoritative organization as the only global and universal organization. Everywhere to my students, I teach the United Nations, saying that this is the only organization in the world which is by character global and universal. The only one. Other organizations have more regional character, but this organization is global and universal. That's why it is important. So I think further Uzbekistan will continue its adherence to the United Nations and will use the platform to advance not only its own national interests, but also will speak on behalf of region.
On the first day of his visit, he met with numerous politicians and representatives of the U.S. side. How will these discussions influence the U.S.-Uzbekistan relations?
I think the United States now is going to invest in Uzbekistan's economy, because there were signals already during the visit that the President met with several investment companies in the United States and achieved some agreements with them, that the prominent investment companies of the United States are ready to invest in Uzbekistan. So we hope it will happen soon. To describe more adequately relationships between Uzbekistan and the United States, I can also mention another parallel process, which symbolically is called C5+1. Also, yet in 2021, the United States adopted a new Central Asia strategy. The text of the strategy, if you read it, is quite ambitious. And it means that Central Asia, in the eyes of the United States, is of strategic importance. And that's why probably the region and the countries of the region, including Uzbekistan, of course, will be at the focus of U.S. foreign policy for a longer perspective.
Mm-hmm. Before we continue our discussion, let's watch a report that is relatively to that.
As a part of his visit to United States, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev met with a group of compatriots living and working in the United States and scholarship holders of the El Yurt Umide Foundation, studying at leading American universities. The leader of Uzbekistan has come up with a number of initiatives to strengthen ties with the compatriots and support the activities of their public unions. In particular, it's planned to provide broad assistance in organizing Uzbek language courses abroad and develop special tour packages for compatriots to visit the historical cities of Uzbekistan. The participants of the meeting noted that deep and wide-ranging reforms carried out by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev will improve the welfare of the people, food, and increase the country's authority in the world community. Expressing sincere gratitude for the great attention paid to them, the compatriots emphasized their readiness to make a worthy contribution to the development of Uzbekistan.
So I know that you have also been living, being young in USA. How do you think youth can contribute to the development of Uzbekistan?
In different ways. Even long ago, United States was open to Uzbekistan and provided numerous opportunities for younger generation from Uzbekistan to get education in the United States. Me, myself, when I was much younger in the late 1990s and beginning of 2000s, I was quite lucky to get such fellowships and I was probably, regarding the independence period, probably one of the first citizens and students and scholars from Uzbekistan who visited the Harvard University. I was a fellow at the Harvard University, spent there one semester, and later in 2005 I was a visiting professor at the Georgia University in the state of Georgia. So I had my own impression. Of course, I saw the system of education of the United States with my own eyes, and of course my impression is absolutely positive. Now, it wasn't just like work or teaching there, but also I collected huge a volume of literature, journal articles, books, textbooks, which I brought from the United States and still use in my own research activity and in teaching in the university. This is one example, my personal example. I mean, it means that since early independence years, the United States was open and welcomed representatives from Uzbekistan for education, for scientific research, and so on. And this policy continues. And of course, the more and more students, researchers, scholars from Uzbekistan are heading towards the United States. In terms of education, there are a lot of opportunities for our students, for our researchers, scholars. I think especially during this visit, President Mirziyoyev met with some people who are also engaged in the university circles, and I heard the news that there is a plan to open the branch of another university in Tashkent. So this process is going on and developing and promising.
How can the relationship of Uzbekistan with the United States influence the regional stability, especially in regards to Afghanistan?
For Uzbekistan and of course for other countries of Central Asia, situation in Afghanistan is not of secondary importance. It's high priority. In particular, you know that Uzbekistan is eager to realize the mega project, let's say, of constructing the highway and railway connecting Uzbekistan to Indian Ocean through Afghanistan territory. Famous Mazar-e-Sharif, Kabul, Peshawar, Karachi line. This project, of course, should it be realized, will provide huge opportunities for Uzbekistan and other Central Asian countries to get access to oceanic ports and to spur external trade. That's why it's important. But much depends, of course, on the situation in Afghanistan. This time also, within the C5+1 format and also from the platform of the United Nations General Assembly, President of Uzbekistan also pointed out to the situation in Afghanistan. Also included to the previous suggestions such points as unfreezing Afghan assets, financial assets, which are frozen in the American banks, for helping the most needed Afghan population in order to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe in Afghanistan and things like that. So Afghanistan is constantly at the focus of Uzbekistan's foreign policy, I guess.
Let's talk about the speech of Shavkat Mirziyoyev at the UN General Assembly, but before we do that, let's watch the report.
The general political debate on the 78th session of the UN General Assembly has begun at the United Nations headquarters in New York. President of Uzbekistan Shavkat Mirziyoyev also addressed the session. In his speech, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev emphasized the need to preserve the spirit of harmony and practical cooperation, to unite the countries on the basis that common interests are higher than existing contradictions. The head of state emphasized the large-scale, irreversible reforms carried out in Uzbekistan in the recent years, put forward a number of initiatives aimed at addressing the most pressing issues on the global and regional agenda. We will strongly continue the policy of building a new Uzbekistan as a legal, secular, democratic and social state. Based on the idea in the name of honor and dignity of the human being, our country is confidently pursuing the path of fundamental reforms aimed at strengthening the principles of democracy and justice, Shavkat Mirziyoyev said. The participants were presented with the results achieved in the protection of human rights and the complete prohibition of forced and child labor in Uzbekistan. As the president noted, the development of human capital and the upbringing of creative young generation is one of the strategic tasks Uzbekistan has set for itself. The head of state also focused on intensifying joint efforts to prevent the spread of extremism and radicalization of youth. In addition, the Uzbek leader urged to prevent cases of religious intolerance and Islamophobia which have recently been observed in some countries. In order to promote the ideas of interreligious tolerance and harmony in the world, it was proposed to establish an international center for interreligious dialogue and tolerance in Uzbekistan under the UNESCO auspices. In order to study the rich legacy of great personalities and deeply reveal the humanistic essence of Islam, an initiative has been put forward to hold an international conference on the theme Islam is a religion of peace and goodness in Uzbekistan in 2024. It was emphasized that international security is directly linked with the processes in Afghanistan. The new situation has emerged in the country, which requires special approaches. Ignoring, isolating and imposing sanctions aggravates the situation of the ordinary Afghan people. Speaking from the high rostrum of the United Nations, the President of Uzbekistan called on the international community to unite in addressing the problems of Afghanistan and, under the leadership of United Nations, to develop a coordinated and constructive position on Afghanistan. At the end of the speech, it was noted that at this critical historical moment, everyone should think about what kind of planet we will leave the future generation. Only through shared aspirations and joint efforts can lasting peace and prosperity be achieved. More than ever, we need mutual trust, solidarity and cooperation, Shavkat Mirziyoyev said. Uzbekistan's readiness to deepen a broad and long-term partnership with the United Nations, institutions and all states was once again emphasized.
What does this speech tell us about the strategic direction of Uzbekistan?
I think foreign policy of Uzbekistan will be, let's say, developed in the future in full accordance with UN principles and rules. UN will remain quite priority for Uzbekistan. So many years have passed since independence, since 1991, more than 30 years. It's time to shift our declarations, our goodwill, political statements to the practical surface. It is important now to practically demonstrate all these plans and goals which we express in different platforms. So practicality is the main criterion, I guess, to check how this very good and promising declarations are strong. So now we have all rights to expect that now we will have practical results. Imagine, that situation in Afghanistan exacerbates, especially related to construction by Taliban of the Kushtepa Canal. We know this is a very troublesome situation because this canal will divert rivers of Amu Darya, and this project, if it is realized by Afghan side, will and can cause huge ecological disasters, consequences. This is one issue. There are also other problems related to Afghanistan. So combining, if situation exacerbates, will and how will the United States help Central Asians, or in particular Uzbekistan, to strengthen security in Central Asia, to stabilize Afghanistan? Because from declaration to declaration, from C5+1 to another C5+1, from meetings to meetings, Afghanistan has always been mentioned. And there was, I would say, regularly, on the regular basis, sides, Central Asian countries, United States, sides constantly, draw attention to the situation in Afghanistan. Okay, now on the practical level, what can be done jointly with the United States and Central Asians? What projects or political declarations, or maybe the pressure which the United States can exert on the Taliban power circles, I don't know. But nevertheless, it should be practical now. We should shift from, let's say, paper to life and demonstrate on the practical level.
Let's talk about Uzbekistan's accession to WTO. But before we discuss this topic, let's watch the report.
President Shavkat Mirziyoyev has met with the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Ojonda-Iweala. In the course of the meeting, the sides discussed measures being taken for Uzbekistan's early accession to the WTO. The head of state stressed the importance of joining organization, including in view of the medium and long-term development goals. Ngozi Ojonda-Iweala expressed the WTO Secretariat's full support for Uzbekistan's efforts, as well as a confidence in the country's accession in the near future. As a result of the meeting, an agreement was reached to accelerate the next meeting of the working group, improve the qualification of specialists, and assist in harmonizing legislation with WTO agreements and rules.
It's been already 30 years since Uzbekistan is trying to get into organization.
Exactly.
Even Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan are already in the organization. What's the main obstacle for Uzbekistan to join WTO?
I don't know exactly in some details which problems slowed down the membership of Uzbekistan in WTO, probably in contrast to Kyrgyzstan as a smaller country, or Kazakhstan, which has some other distinctive economic features and grounds. Uzbekistan probably is more complicated in terms of its economic organization, economic structure, legislation. That's why it took so long time to adjust Uzbekistan's policy, economic system to WTO demands, WTO criteria. Indeed, it took so long. But if you read the recently adopted 5-year strategy of Uzbekistan, designed for the years 2017, 2023, 24. So the text of the strategy contains a special article devoted to WTO. It says that Uzbekistan now will have membership in the WTO as a policy of foreign policy, as a priority in the foreign policy of Uzbekistan. So this is one point which I would like to mention. And because this time President of Uzbekistan met with the General Secretary of the WTO, I evaluate this meeting as very clear signal that there will be no longer any barriers, any problems for Uzbekistan's membership. And I expect even that I think it's most likely that by the end of this year we will get some positive signals about membership.
After the conclusion of the President Shavkat Mirziyoyev's visit to the USA and the United Nations General Assembly, what indicators will you be looking at when assessing the success of these events?
I expect, in particular myself, that Central Asian cooperation between 5 Central Asian countries, integration process will be speeded up. United States will actively support integration in Central Asia because why I'm so optimistic and I expect such practical results because as I said, 3 events almost coincided with each other. 5 presidents meeting, consultative meeting in Dushanbe. A couple of days later, UN General Assembly, a speech by President and other presidents of Central Asia, and CIFA+1. With the help of the United Nations, one, and with the help of the United States, the second, because CIFA+1, in some future, we will see some progress in regional cooperation, regional integration in terms of realization of numerous projects in different spheres. So let's wait.
Thank you for dedicating your time for this interview. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you to your viewers for watching this program, and see you in the next episodes.